Hey there, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Alibu, and today I've got something truly exciting in store for you. We're about to embark on an adventure that will take your applications to new height quite literally. Imagine having the power to make your incredible Spring Boot applications accessible to users worldwide 24/7 without breaking a sweat. Well, that's precisely what we're to explore today. So the art of deploying Spring Boot applications on AWS Cloud. So why is this important? You might ask. Great question. Think about it. You've powered your heart and soul into crafting the incredible app, and now it's time to share it with the world. But how do you ensure that it's not just available, but always available even where you're catching some well-deserved shut-eye? This is where cloud computing and especially AWS comes into play. By the end of this video, you'll have the key to a virtual kingdom where your Spring Boot application can thrive, serving users from all the corners of the globe 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. But there is a kicker. We're going to break down this seemingly complex process into simple step-by-step instructions that even beginners can follow. Whether you're a seasoned developer looking to expand your skill set or a newcomer ready to dive headfirst into the world of cloud computing, this tutorial is your golden ticket to success. So grab your favorite cup of coffee and put on your thinking caps, and let's embark on this AWS adventure together. By the end of this tutorial, you'll be deploying Spring Boot applications on AWS like a pro, and you'll be one step closer to becoming a master of your own digital universe. Before we dive in, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss out on exciting tech tutorials like this one. And don't forget to smash that like button if you're as pumped as I am about this journey ahead. Before we start, I would like to invite you to check out my website for more courses and check out the new thing that is really coming so soon, and enjoy premium courses there. Alright folks, let's get started on your journey to make your Spring Boot dreams a cloud-powered reality. Without further ado, let's jump right into deploying your Spring Boot application on AWS Cloud. First of all, let's have a look and understand the infrastructure diagram of our future application. So first of all, we have a region, and a region in AWS refers to a geographical area around the world where AWS data centers are located. So each AWS region is a separate geographic area with multiple data centers designed to be isolated from one another. So AWS regions are used to host AWS services and resources, and they allow customers to choose the most appropriate location for their applications and data to meet specific compliance and latency requirements. And within a region, we will have our VPC. So a VPC is a virtual private cloud, and a virtual private cloud, or VPC, is a logically isolated section with the AWS Cloud where you can launch AWS resources such EC2 instances, RDS databases, and more. It acts as your own private network within the AWS Cloud. VPC enables you to define your own IP address range, configure network routing, create subnets, and control inbound and outbound network traffic. So they provide a way to organize and secure your AWS resources within a network architecture that you design and control. Then we have our security group. So a security group is a fundamental component of the AWS network security. It acts as a virtual firewall for your instance within a VPC. So you can define inbound, or we call it also ingress, and outbound, we call it also egress. So these are rules for a security group to control the traffic that is allowed or denied to and from instance associated with this security group. So security groups are stateful, meaning if you allow incoming traffic from a specific IP address, outgoing responses to that IP address are automatically allowed. So within a security group, we have ingress and egress rules. So ingress rules in security group define the inbound traffic that is allowed to reach your instance within the group. So you specify the source IP address, port ranges, and protocols that are permitted. And then when we talk about egress rules, so the egress rules in security group define the outbound traffic allowed to leave your instance within the group. So you specify the destination IP addresses, port ranges, and protocols that are permitted from your instance to the outside world. And finally, we have our EC2 instance. So an EC2 instance stands for Elastic Compute Cloud Instance. It is a virtual server that you can launch within an AWS region and place in a VPC. So EC2 Instance provides scalable compute capacity in the cloud and are designed to run various workloads, including web servers, databases, machine learning models, and more. So users can choose from a various instances type, each optimized for specific use case, and configure them within different operating systems and software based on their requirements. So this is the infrastructure of our future deployment. And then we see that we have some few things here. So let me explain them to you. So first, we will create the region. So we will select a region, and then we will create VPC or use the default one. After that, we will be creating a security group, and then we will create an EC2 instance. After that, so we need to define the egress and ingress rules for our security group. So this means that our EC2 instance needs to connect to our Docker Hub in order to download the Docker image that we will be building and pushing to Docker Hub. After that, so how we will be doing this? So we will use an SSH connection to our instance from our local machine. And in order to achieve this goal and to connect to our running EC2 instance, we need to create a key pair file, or we call it PEM file. So this PEM file will allow us to establish an SSH connection from our local machine to our EC2 instance. And then we will be running few Docker commands in order to install and run our application inside the EC2 instance. After that, it will come the final stage, which is a final user or a user will be able to connect using the port 80 to our EC2 instance, and we will establish a communication with our running Spring Boot application inside our EC2 instance. So this is a global overview of our infrastructure architecture. So now let's move on and start building these different blocks. So first of all, before we start, you need to create an AWS account. So all you need to do is to go to portal.aws.amazon.com and then click on sign up, and you will land on this page. And afterwards, you need to provide few information like the user email address and the AWS account name, and then click on verify email address. And all you need is just to follow the steps step by step in order to create your AWS account. Also within AWS, you have 1 year for a free tier account where you can use almost all the AWS services in order to try things out. So now I will just leave it to you. Go ahead, create an account, and let's move on to the next part. So the first thing, you need to go here after creating your account. Here you will see this link. So let me zoom in. And here you will have this link right here. So here where you can select the region that you want to work on. And for example, for my case, I'm located in Europe. So the closest geographical location to me is Europe, Frankfurt, and it's called EU Central 1. So go ahead, select this one if you are in Europe, or select the closest one to you. So here you have many options, whether if you are in US East 1, East 2, and so on and so forth, even if you are in Asia or Europe. Also you have South Africa in Sao Paulo, and here, for example, if you want to select another one, here you will see if the region that you want to select is available for your account or not. So this is the region. Then so let's go ahead and move to the next part. So here when you click on services in here, so this will allow you to explore all the services or all the AWS services that are available for you. Otherwise, for example, if you know the service by name, you can click in the search bar and type the service and it will pop up in the result list. So also when you search for a service, you can also add it to your favorite and it will be pinned to this bar right here. So first of all, let's go ahead. So since we selected the region, now let's move on and select and have a look on the VPC. So go ahead, search for VPC, and you will see the result is in here. So what I recommend is clicking on this star. So you will have VPC pinned right here. So go ahead, click on it. And here within the VPC, so here we can click on our VPCs. So if you click on it, you see here that we have 2 VPCs. And now I will click on my VPCs. So here I have my basic VPC. So this is one I was also trying. And we have always, when you create an AWS account, you will have a default VPC. So we will be using mainly this default VPC. So we don't need to create a new VPC. All right. So after creating a VPC, what we need to do, the first thing we need to do is to create a key pair file. So now let's close this one, and here go ahead and search for EC2 and then click on it. So here you will see the list of the running EC2 instances, if you have dedicated hosts, volume, security groups, and so on and so forth. So here you can, whether from this place or from this dashboard, click on security groups, or on the left hand side, if you scroll down, you will see here that you have also security groups. So click on security group, and then these are my security groups, the one I have, and here you see that 2 of them are the default security groups. So when you create a VPC, it also creates a default security groups for you. So now we want to click on create security group. So click on this button right here, and let's call it Spring Demo, Spring AWS Demo. And then let's add SG just to say security groups. So let's go ahead and copy also this description in here. So now, as I explained before, we have inbound rules and outbound rules. So the inbound rules are the rules or the protocols that are allowed to connect to my instance. So the first one we need to select is HTTP. Since we want to access our instance from the outside world, means we want to access it from the browser. So let's select first of all HTTP, and then we said that we want to establish an SSH connection. Search for SSH, select it, and here it has the port 22 by default, and the protocol is TCP. So now we can select the source who can access this instance. So here we can whether select anywhere from IPv4 or IPv6, or if you want, you can select my IP, and this will automatically display the current IP address that you have. So this means only you can access using SSH connection to the EC2 instance. Now let's define an outbound rules. So the outbound rules, we can leave it to all traffic like here. So we will be able to access anything from our EC2 instance to the outside world. So now let's go ahead and click on create security group. All right, so here from HTTP, we can select anywhere IPv4. So because we want to make our instance or our application publicly available, so we will select anywhere from IPv4. So now click on create security group, and we see here that now we have our security group getting created, and it has a name Spring AWS Demo SG for security group. And now we can click on security groups to list all of this. So here we have also a name. So let's go ahead and call it Spring AWS Demo Security Group, just to know it from the first site. And here you also can see the information of your security group. All right. Also here you can see the inbound rules, and also you can edit them if you forgot or if you want to add something else. Also we have the outbound rules in here, and here we have the button also to edit these outbound rules. Alright, so now we have our VPC, we created a security group, but the next step we need to do is to create our PEM file. So if you scroll down here, you will see a link called key pairs. So click on it, and here it will list all the key pairs that you have, but for this demo I will be using this one since I already have it, but I will show you how to create your own key pair. So go ahead, click on create key pair, and then give it a name. So for example, let's say Spring Demo AWS, and then leave it as RSA, leave everything as it is, and then click on create key pair. So here select PM, not PPK, and then click create key pair. And after that, it will ask you to download the file. So this file, you need to download it and save it in a secure place, and never share this PM file, because this is the file that will allow you to connect to your instance. Alright, so here I will just click on save to save this file, and then later on, as I mentioned before, I will be using this one to connect to our EC2 instance. Alright, now let's go back to instances, and then let's click on launch instance, or also you can go to EC2 dashboard and you have also launch instance button from here. So it works from both places. So now let's call our server, let's call it Spring Demo Web Application. So I just called it Spring Demo AWS Web Server, and then let's go and search for an AMI. So here, so it's Amazon Machine Image. AMI stands for Amazon Machine Image. So here select Amazon Linux, and it will be pointing you to the latest one. And here make sure it's free tier eligible. All right, otherwise you need to pay for it. And then let's select T2 Micro. So this is the instance type, and it's also free tier eligible. And then we need to select a key pair in order to be able to log in and to establish an SSH connection to our instance. So here from the list, as I mentioned before, I will use this one, Spring Demo app, to connect, but for your case, just select the key pair that you created, or if you have multiple ones, just go ahead and select the one that you want to use. So then we move to the network settings, and here you see that the network, it's by default the default VPC in here, so we have no subnets. And then for the firewall and the security groups, we can whether create a new security group or select an existing one. So click on select existing one, and then go ahead and select the security group that we created just before that. So Spring AWS Demo SG, and let's select this one, and the rest you can leave everything as it is and just click on launch instance. So when you launch the instance, it will take some time until the instance is started. So if you click on it, it will also navigate you again to instances, and now you see that the instance state is pending, so it's just running. So if you click in here, you will see that it's gonna take a few time, and then when you refresh, you will see the state that will be changed, and then you will know when your instance is ready. So now the instance is running, and the status check is initializing. So let's wait until the status check is done, and then let's move on, and I will show you what we need to do next. Now our EC2 instance is running and ready to use, and as you can see here, the status check is 2 of 2 check passed. So let's select our instance, and here you see that we have a bunch of information, and we have, this is our public IPv4 address, we have also the private one, and also we have a bunch of information like the instance ID, the instance name, and so on and so forth. So also if you scroll a bit down, you see here that we have the key pair assigned at launch. So it's assigned to this Spring Demo app. So this is the key pair that I selected from the list of my available key pairs. Now let's move on. Let's start our terminal, and let me show you how to establish a connection to our EC2 instance. So the first thing that we need to do is to copy the public IPv4 address, and then open your terminal. So here what I really recommend is to go where you placed your PEM file. So here, as you can see, I have my spring demo app.pm. So this is where I can directly access my PM file. So now, in order to establish an SSH connection, you need to type this command. So SSH -i and then the file of your PM. So in this case, it's spring demo app.pm, and then EC2-user and then @ and then just paste the IP address that you just copied. And after that, hit enter. So here you will see like we have authenticity, and these are the logs. And now we have a confirmation message. Are you sure you want to continue connecting? Let's type yes. And now we see that we have this logo, and now we are inside this EC2 instance. So it's EC2 user, and then we have the IP address that we pasted. So for example, if I do pwd, so now like the current working space or working directory, so we have home/ec2-user. So now we can run any command that we want. So for example, echo hello. So you see that we see it in here. So now the next step is to prepare our Spring Boot application in order to be ready to deploy to this EC2 instance. All right, so now let's move on. Let's explore our Spring Boot application for this demo, and let's start our deployment. So for the sake of this demo, I just created a simple Spring Boot application containing one controller, like available on /API/v1/demo, and then we have a get mapping. So it will just return a response, and then we will increase a counter just to count the number of visitors of our application. And then of course I just created just an index file, so when we visit our application URL, we will see by default this one. So let me start the application and let me show you the output of this Spring Boot application. So let's go to our browser, and if I go to localhost 8080, so by default we see that we have the Spring Boot application deployment to AWS, and this is a demo project. And then if I go to /API/v1/demo, so we see we have that response from demo controller, and then response number 1, if I refresh, it will just increase the counter, and so forth. So this is just a demo application just to show you how to deploy a Spring Boot application to an AWS EC2 instance. In the next video, I will cover how to connect it to an RDS database, and so forth. So we will start growing our tutorial to show you step by step. So don't miss the next videos. All right, so now let's go back to our IntelliJ, and in here for that, what I did, I also prepared a Docker file just to build a Docker image out of this application. So this Docker file is based on 2 stages. Also, if you are new to Docker, I recommend that you check out my Docker tutorial video. I will leave the link in the description of this video. So if you are not familiar with Docker, you will learn everything about Docker. All right, so here we have the first stage is building the application. So the first stage will be based on the Maven image. Open like it's Maven 384, open JDK 17, and we will call the stage build, and then we define our working directory. So maybe let's make it full screen, and then we will copy the pom.xml and the source file, and then we will be running the mvn clean install command. After that, or also you can replace it with mvn clean package, it also works. So after that, we come to the second stage, which will package our application. So it will be based on the OpenJDK 17 Alpine, and then we define our working directory. Then we need to copy the generated files from our build. So we will copy from the build stage, which is this one. And then what we want to copy is this file named AWS-001 snapshot.jar, and we want to copy it and rename the file to demo-aws.jar. After that, we want to expose the port 8080, which is the default one for our Spring Boot application. And finally, we want to run the application using Java -jar and then the jar file name. So let's open the terminal right here, and all we need to do is to run a command. So here there is something that I need to mention. So the command that we will be running to build this Docker image, usually we would use docker build and then the tag, and then we give it the context of the Docker file. But since our EC2 instance is based on Linux, so we need to build our Docker image for a Linux distribution. So the command that we need to use is docker build x and then space minus platform. So then we need to specify the platform. In our case, it's Linux /AMD 64. And then this is the tag name. So it will be -t just for tag. And then Ali Bo Ali /AWS demo. And I gave it a tag 1.0 and then space and then dot. So the dot means that the Docker file that I want to use is in the same location when I'm running my Docker command. So let's hit enter and let's see what's happening. All right, so my Docker image is built. So now we have it ready. So what I will be doing, I will push this Docker image to my Docker Hub profile, so to my repository on Docker Hub. So I will be using the command docker push, and then it's Ali Bo Ali /AWS demo and then :1.0, which is exactly the same name or the same tag that I gave to my Docker image when I built it. So here, if you are not connected or if you don't have a Docker Hub account, go ahead and create one. And when you execute this push command the first time, you will be prompted to provide your login and password, and afterward it will be working smoothly. So let's go ahead, let's push it. And here we see like to push to repository, preparing, pushing, and so on and so forth. So now once it's done, we will go to Docker Hub and make sure that we have this Docker image available in our Docker repository. All right, so our image is pushed. So now let's go to our Docker Hub. So in here, this is a repository. I will just refresh the page in here. And now we should see the image that we just pushed to our Docker repository. So it's Alibu /AWS demo and pushed a few seconds ago. All right, so now we have our application, we have everything, we have our Docker image. Now all we need to do is to connect or to SSH into our EC2 instance and run few commands. So let's move on and do this. All right, so now what we need to do is to go back to our terminal and execute few commands on our EC2 instance. So I'm gonna clean this one. So the first thing we need to run the command sudo and then yum and then update and then -y. So this is just to update our system, and you see here that it's already up to date. So the next step is we need to install Docker. So again, sudo, by the way, you need the keyword sudo because you are not running as an admin. So you need to also add this sudo keyword. So then sudo yum install and then -y and then Docker. So this will install Docker inside our EC2 instance. So it's downloading Docker and then installing it, and afterwards we need to start our Docker service. So now we have Docker, then the next command is sudo service and then Docker and then start. So sudo service docker start, this will start the Docker service. And here, for example, just to make sure if your Docker service is started, just to type any Docker command. Okay, so here, as I mentioned, if you don't specify sudo, it will not work. So here, let's do docker sudo docker ps, or sorry, sudo docker ps. And for now, we don't have any running container. So now let's go ahead and run our application, and using the command sudo docker and then run. So we can also run it in a detached mode, -d, and then I want to expose the port 8880 over the port 8080 from our application. And then we need to specify the Docker image. So it's Ali Bo Ali and then slash, and then let's go back to our Docker Hub and make sure. So it's Ali Bo Ali /AWS demo, and we have the tag 1.0. So let me zoom in, and now let's go back to our terminal. So it's AWS demo and then the tag is 1.0. So then hit enter. It will check if the image is there, otherwise it will start pulling the image, and now it's just extracting, and afterwards it will start a container out of this image. So now all we need to do is to go back to our AWS console. So this is our running EC2. So all we need to do is to copy this IP address, and let's open a new tab and let's paste it in here. So now we see that by accessing this IP address, we are able to see the same message as we have in here when using the localhost 8080. So now if we visit also /API/v1/demo, we also see that we have the response, and the response number is number 1. Now if I refresh, it will keep incrementing the counter that we have in our backend. Alright folks, I hope you enjoyed this step-by-step tutorial. I know it was basic and maybe so basic for some of you, but the next videos are really more important. So the next time we will be deploying the application or a Spring Boot application using Terraform. So it will be a nice introduction to Terraform. So if you are up to this idea, just go ahead, blow the comments and let me know if you want something like this. Also, don't forget to subscribe my channel, because the next videos about deploying will be more and more interesting, and the next time we will be deploying an application that uses a database, and we'll be using RDS databases from AWS in order to connect our backend to our database, and later on we'll be use a front end like an Angular application and deploy a full application on AWS. So let me know in the comments if you want this, so I will make videos for it, and mainly and especially if you want to see it using Terraform, or I can also provide both of them manually, like using the AWS console and the UI, and also I will show you how to do it with Terraform step by step. Alright folks, so I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you next time.